Yeah, greetings. It's Tales from the Jails. John G. Sutton here. This is the second broadcast today because they've just sentenced David Carrick. David Carrick being the former Metropolitan Police officer who was being convicted of 49 assaults, 24 rapes, numerous offences of injuring people, false imprisonment, holding his victims. Some of them he held in a little cupboard underneath the stairs of his house, locked them in there, and would torture. Basically, this man was quite a maniac, really. And he's now been sentenced by Mrs. Justice Kema Grubb to 36 life sentences, with a recommendation that he is not released, that he serves a minimum of 30 years. Well, 30 years in prison for David Carrick will feel extremely difficult, because being an ex-police officer and a sex offender, I mean, he's dropped the jackpot there, hasn't he? He's going to be meeting some serious maniacs, a bit like himself, actually. Yeah, he could do with meeting Charlie Bronson, couldn't he? Charlie, welcome in. Oh, welcome in, lad. Come in, eh? I've got a treat for you here. I'm just... Yeah, because he certainly had a thing for that, didn't he, Charlie? I don't know, I think he has now. He's stopped that now. I previously mentioned him in my earlier broadcast, and good luck to Charles Salvador on his application for parole, because I can't see any reason why he wouldn't at 70 years of age. Goodness me. I mean, you get out, I mean, you're just not like you were. I mean, I'm 73 myself, and I certainly couldn't do what I used to do, run marathons and box and go into the gym 2 or 3 times a day. You just can't do it, can you? Anyway, David Carrick, 36 life sentences, an absolute disgrace. I mean, the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police is saying he should never have been a police officer. Not only was he a police officer, he was an armed police officer who worked with the Parliamentary Protection Unit. That is, he was on patrol around Westminster carrying probably a submachine gun and a handgun as well, properly trained by the Metropolitan Police, and used his position to abuse and to terrorise his victims. Apparently he raped serving female officers as well, and they were terrified to report him because they felt that his position was such in the Metropolitan Police that it would reflect upon them. I always found, you know, that if you're going to deal with people like that, and you've got to deal with them, you can't mess about. You've got to, if you're going to be faced with them and you can't, you've got to deal with it. Yeah, physically deal with it. So if you get attacked, then you fight back, and fight back with everything you've got. See, the thing is, this guy was obviously a bully, and he would use his size and his position to intimidate his victims. But if his victims wouldn't be intimidated, then he would back off, because that's what bullies do. They would, generally speaking, think, well, I'll go and get myself an easier target. You know, if you pick on somebody that's going to bite you in the nose, I wouldn't hesitate myself if some great big bastard grabbed hold of me, whatever it took. You would have to do that, wouldn't you? Otherwise, you're going to be on the receiving end of his todger, which ain't good. Anyway, 36 life sentences. David Carrick, may he seriously rot. I think he'd probably go to somewhere like Full Sutton, won't he? HM Prison Full Sutton, which I believe is an establishment, Home Office establishment prison for sex offenders, because that's what this guy is. But What is it coming to? There's also another police officer just been arrested and charged with 3 counts of assault occasioning actual bodily harm and rape, and his case has not been brought before the court yet, so it would be wrong to decide that he's guilty of this, but he's a suspended police officer, still suspended in duty, PC Jordan Brown, and he's awaiting taking before the courts. But there's numerous of them, isn't there not? This is a very worrying state of affairs. Apparently, I was talking to my brother, who's a former detective inspector, and he was telling me that they no longer conducted face-to-face interviews with people, that they conducted their interviews online, and that the application forms were filled in, like little tick boxes, like, do you have any criminal convictions? I want to be a police officer, so no, I don't. Tick that box, yeah. And it just was not being correctly vetted, so that people who were going into the police were actually going in there with previous convictions and various other serious psychological issues that were making them completely unfit. When I joined the prison service, it was extremely difficult to get in. That's the prison service. They checked on your grandparents, they checked on my parents, checked on my brother, my sister. They wanted written references from every single employer that I'd worked for. They wanted to see my military discharge documents. It was extremely difficult. You didn't just walk into a job like that. But nowadays, they can't get staff. Well, there's probably a reason that they can't get staff, because they're really not paying what amounts to a proper wage. Because if you're getting £30,000, £25,000 a year in somewhere like Gloucestershire or Surrey or Essex or somewhere like that, you're not going to be able to afford to live. I was talking to a landlord that I know in Manchester today, and he was telling me that he owns these flats, and he was charging. Well, he wasn't. He's handed them to an agency that deals with it for him. But originally, when he got them about 5 years ago, he was charging, I think it's £800 a month for the rent. He was telling me that it's now £1,350 a month, and on top of that, they've got to pay council tax and various other things. And so you'd no change out of £2,000 a month to live in a little 2-bedroom flat in the middle of Manchester. How do you afford that? That's £24,000 a year. So you've not got anything left to live on if you're working as a prison officer, yeah? So it's ridiculous. That's why they can't recruit staff. Yeah. So anyway, today's little second ramble is David Carrick, sentenced to 36 life sentences, a minimum term of 30 years. He'll be approximately 80 if he ever gets out. I doubt he ever will. So I'm not going to sing to you now, and I'm not going to recite Grandpa Grumps. I'll do that tomorrow. But you can do a runner if you want. I'm going to recite you a poem, a nice poem here by Percy Bysshe Shelley. This is about the futility, of actually thinking that you're a wonderful, rich, all-powerful individual, and that you're really wasting your time. It's called Ozymandias of Egypt by Percy Bysshe Shelley, whose name is writ on water. He drowned, you see. I met a traveller from an antique land who said, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear: My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing else remains round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare. The lone and level sands stretch far away. Ozymandias. We'll meet again. Don't forget to get my book, folks. HMP Manchester Prison Officer.